Well, hello there everyone, and welcome to my 1000th subscriber commentary episode. Thank you guys so much for your tremendous support. In honor of reaching such a landmark subscription number, you are probably wondering what kind of video I'm about to commentate on for such an occasion. Well, since knowing that November has passed, a stupid fucking challenge that I didn't bother to participate, I decided to look at one video that closely relates to it in a way. The video we will be examining is from a person known as Academic Agent, and yes, that's his actual username, and his video, entitled Zoomers Coomers, a video in which he explains to us how tomboys are destroying the foundational principles of Western civilization. Yes, you heard it correctly. You did not wake up in a simulation or one of the 9 circles of hell. Someone actually made a video about the sexy abdomen of tomboys and immediately gave a synopsis contemplating over the imminent existential doom of civilization. Ladies and gentle-queers, we've successfully hit the Mariana Trench for today's episode. To think I can't get any more deeper in the shit-covered ocean than I did when I made those Mark Collett, Maddie's Modern Life and Achilles Argyle's videos, but apparently YouTube, being the malevolent omniscient force that it is, has managed to read my mind and pump out something that is more absurdly ridiculous. Anyway, let's not waste any more time and begin this very informative video.
By Foundations of Writing on the Academic Agency.
No.
I came across a thread on Twitter today.
Alright, pro tip for all this non-dish douchebags who think they are better than me for using a microphone, because this man has mastered a very viable skill. Get rid of your stupid blue Yeti microphone and instead buy one of those Call of Duty headphones that 12-year-olds like to use. Make sure you pull your mic very close to your mouth to where the fucking audio is blasting everyone's eardrums.
Hello everyone, it's just me, Johnny Crispo Video speaking.
This will ensure the maximum amount of people are able to listen to you, because the dialogue relating to the material decadence and fall of the Occident is so important.
Here's how it started. Enough politics. Abs time.
It's not abs time, motherfucker. We need to continue endlessly bickering. Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse. Critical race theory, cancel culture. Kyle Rittenhouse.
This post had almost 60,000 likes and over 800 replies.
Not to mention the post was made in September 10th of 2021. Hey guys, what is 9 plus 10? Okay, I'll stop. Real interesting to note that this video immediately went from a torture device meant to rape my eardrums to something akin to an ASMR video. I'm stuck at a predicament where I am both having a tingling sensation in my brain and containing my laughter over how autistic you have to be to make a video like this.
Now we're going to come back to those replies in a moment. I don't care about who this person is. Before I even start, I want to head off 4 degenerate copes that I just know some dweeb in the chat or the comments will be trying to make.
Gotta love that we live in an era where this clearly certified super intellectual academically literate bookworm is using such prestige academic vocabulary like cope, dweeb and degenerate, and condemning people who tries to challenge his views as a degenerate who is coping.
Let me save you the trouble and list them. Number 1. What's wrong with abs? Do you want girls to be fat?
Alright, I was going to deem this as a straw man and then move on to the next point, but honestly, this first cope that you demonstrated makes a really great point. If you don't want women to exercise and take care of their bodies to the extent where they sort of resemble the picture you've shown, then what is your alternative? Exercising less? Not sure if that would benefit anyone, my duderino. I think having a solid abdomen is pretty much the inevitable endpoint of obtaining a truly healthy body regardless of gender. Oh yeah, we'll get back to that in a moment.
Number 2. You're just a boomer who doesn't get the tomboy, abs, fetish subculture, bro.
Gotta love that we live in an era where this clearly certified super intellectual Poindexter is using such prestige academic vernacular words such as boomer and bro. You know, many parents are worried about their children being taught about critical race theory at school, but this video has provided me with something more pressing to worry about.
Number 3. If you're against this, it's obviously some insecurity on your part.
Hey, that's exactly what I've been thinking. However, I'm pretty sure many normal people wouldn't necessarily say against in this sentence. I think it's more along the lines of, if you are so emasculated that you interpret women revealing their six-packs as a testament of the absolute destruction to the natural fabric of civilization, then there might be some insecurity in your part.
Number 4. Stop getting triggered and acting like a prude, bro. They're just being ironic and exaggerating, trying to wind you up.
Spoiler alert, this is the cope that I will be using for this video.
Well, listen.
Oh, I'm listening.
Fuck all that.
Wait, you took all that time to construct some imaginary arguments and your responses of a Steve Buscemi clip? Don't I at least get some sort of counter-argument?
So just stop, okay?
Wait, what should I suggest? You were just about to make a point, and now one of the people in the imaginary audience is interrupting your presentation. A way to combat such interloping is with a script.
Enough with these justifications and copes. Don't want to hear them. I don't care. I've heard it all before anyway, when I focused on the femboy issue and the anime to porn to trans pipeline last year.
The anime porn trans pipeline. Duh. Oh noes, hentai is turning people into doodle tones. Better hide in my Barney pillow pet fortress. What the fuck are you talking about? The only thing that I can tell between femboys, tomboys and transgendered people is that they all have things to do with conventional gender nonconformity, but I didn't know that there was a pipeline, and that anime is also in cahoots with it.
Both of these things, the femboy and the tomboy, point to a deeper existential malaise in a culture that has seriously lost its way. And before you libertarians start, it's not fucking kink, okay? It's not a private matter. It's not a case of what goes on in the bedroom.
It literally is. Don't know about you, chum. I was always of the belief that conventionally sexual things can be subject to being only between 2 or more participants in a private setting. So what the hell is your point? I suppose you wouldn't like it if I started pulling down my pants and started masturbating in public, right? Yeah, that's what I thought.
So please shut up for a second while the natural law is laid down.
Natural law? What the hell do you mean natural law? You know, I've seen the whole natural law discourse being brought up by many conservatives, particularly the far right, and it's usually when they are discussing sexual or gender nonconformity. The problem is that their idea of natural law does not correlate to reality, and many of them are based upon their own dogmatic beliefs. If the gender roles that you are seemingly starting to reinforce is indicative of being quote-unquote natural, none of the tomboys and femboys that you are bitching about would exist. Everyone in the planet would only act in accordance with their assigned gender roles. Men will be conventionally masculine and women will be conventionally feminine. Unfortunately, we live in the real fucking world, and everyone is their own individual being. If it's natural, what's the use in reinforcing it to people?
This is a civilizational matter, because we are a civilization under both tremendous attack.
Pay attention to what Academic Agent is saying in this part of the video. We are a civilization under tremendous attack, that's what he said. If you know just a little bit with white nationalist propaganda, or any other fascist propaganda that permeates the Western world, they always have this narrative that Western civilization is going through a phase of liberal decadence, and an out-group is deliberately attacking the Western world through decadence and degeneracy. They'll say it's the communists, or leftists in general. They'll say it's brown people, particularly Muslims, or, if they're extreme enough, they'll say that the West is being attacked by the Jews. How many of you have heard the term cultural Marxism being used? I see I have a few hands being raised. Here's a little known fact that is hard to swallow. Cultural Marxism is a term loosely based on the term cultural Bolshevism, a term that was coined by the Nazis. The Nazis believed that Marxists, particularly those from the Frankfurt School, are subverting German culture with Marxist values, and attacking and destroying things such as the family, music, art, national or cultural identity, you name it. They say they usually do it through institutions such as universities, movies, etc. Sound familiar? Many of the YouTubers in the skeptic community would sometimes perpetuate the narrative of cultural Marxism. They would usually talk about how the cultural Marxists, sometimes referred to as social justice warriors, are trying to subvert Western society by promoting things like feminism, Marxism, political correctness, and whatever else these skeptic YouTubers like to complain about, and it is usually done through infiltrating institutions such as the university, Hollywood, education, government, etc. In some cases, they usually talk about the Frankfurt School. It seems like the people who use terms like cultural Marxism are not too ideologically different from the Nazis. The only difference is that they say SJWs instead of Jews. If we were back in 1930s Germany, there's no doubt in my mind that the people perpetuating this conspiracy theory would have put on the uniform and burned down synagogues during Kristallnacht.
And in steep decline. Therefore it matters that our young women are trying to behave like men in this way, and it matters even more that our young men are responding in public and under their real names, mind you, like this.
Hey buddy, since you are so much of a grossly antiquated boomer that your only means of accessing the internet is through a telegraph, here's a little tip about the nature of Twitter. You see, Mr. Intellectual, this is a reaction image. Many reaction images are usually exaggerated responses, and this one is no exception. This one in particular is meant by the creator of this tweet to illustrate the appreciation of the tomboy acts shown in the picture that you've presented earlier in this video.
I think that we've reached peak wank.
Thank you, Mr. Britt Bonder.
Now, because people are stupid, I can't just let this picture speak for itself. I'm going to have to really spell it out.
I think I'm good, buddy. I think anyone with the IQ above that of a mosquito could tell what is going on in the picture. A wiggly worm-like creature in a silly knight's helmet is licking the abdomen of a strong human female, presumably from a video game. There, alright, let's see Joe Biden try to figure this one out.
So that even Billy at the back of the class can get it.
Unfortunately, Billy couldn't attend his online lecture. Apparently he, being the absolutely hilarious comedic genius he is slacking off playing Slither.io with the screen name going by Open Borders for Israel.
The woman is built like a man.
No, that's incorrect. The woman is obviously not built like the man. You can see a pair of knockers on top of the screen as well as the hourglass body that she is. The only thing is that she is muscular. Gotta love how you're implying that she is less of a woman, all because of what? The muscular physique that she is?
The man is a little snake wimp on his knees in the classic blowjob position, and to cap it all off, she's holding his head. There's even a variant where she calls him little boy. This isn't some one-off response. This is a cultural phenomenon big enough to be a meme.
Hello Internet and welcome to Behind the Meme. Today we will be talking about how feminine cocks are the death blow of the white man.
But it should be clear that the tomboy abs is a gateway to fantasies of complete gender reversal.
No, that's not what's happening. Going back to this one tweet that you've cherry-picked out of 1,000 tweets relating to so-called gender reversal, as what you're describing isn't the only key tenet of the replies. There are Yakuza gifs, image of a monkey having a brain aneurysm, Team Fortress 2 characters, TikTok clips, Gibbons, and Darth Vader, not to mention a clip of Plankton from SpongeBob, Barry from the B-movie tipping his fedora, Dragon Ball Z clips, a black kid staring into the window in a mischievous manner, as well as a video of a dog emoji filter with growling sound effects. Credit to Just the Facts for some of the screenshots in his video. Go watch it, it's great. Man, who could have thought that fascists would be such huge fucking liars? Yeah, I fail to see how this is some sort of grand-scale problem, and it only leaves me guessing that this just goes to show that fascists will just take one bit of information and run with it to promote some batshit insane narrative that liberalism is leaving a nation decadent.
This young man wants to put himself in the position of a teenage girl.
How much do you want to bet? If I use my armchair psychoanalysis, I could detect that he preys on teenage girls all the time because of this part of the video.
Serving a bigger and more masculine man. He is abdicating his responsibility as a man.
Ah yes, the moment when that Y chromosome has been finalized in my body, I was given a 1,000-page rule book on how I should act, as well as my responsibilities. Be a disgusting slob, be really loud in school, and hold back all my tears.
And asking the woman to be the man in his place.
Alright, I think everyone by now should know what exactly his problems are with tomboys and those who enjoy it. You see, academic agent is obviously a tradcon, which basically means he advocates on behalf of socially constructed values that were present throughout history, case in point, traditional gender and family roles. As such, he views the aforementioned things, be they trans people, tomboys, femboys, etc., as being a perversion to the type of gender dynamics they wish to rigidly instill onto society, and unless they stamp them out of existence, Western society would collapse. Traditional gender roles instills that men are the strong breadwinners of the household, and women are just meat subordinate bread makers who stay in the kitchen all day taking care of their young. Because of this, he views the aforementioned meme, a sock puppet type figure licking the abdomen of a muscular woman, as being an inversion of his preconceived stereotypes of how gender dynamics are supposed to be, because according to his sexist viewpoint, women are the ones that are supposed to be the weaker pair, not the other way around.
In other words, he is verbalizing his desire to be feminine, to become a woman.
Or maybe, and this is up for debate, this could be just a drawing meant to show appreciation to the media that is being shown in an exaggerated way. But no, because the woman that the simplified sock puppet thingy is thirsty over presents characteristics that I deem masculine. I will use my armchair psychoanalysis to conclude that he wants to become a woman. What the hell are you talking about? What the fuck kind of schizophrenic DMT crackpot conspiracy bullshit reasoning is that? Liking women that are bigger and stronger than you does not entail that you want to become a woman, you pseudo-intellectual hack. The bird thingy in the picture is obviously still presented as a male. If he is quote-unquote verbalizing his desire to become feminine, to become a woman, he would have put on the schoolgirl's uniform and a pair of transgendered thigh-high socks. The picture you're showing is him wearing a generic medieval pot helm. Because of this, analyzing the lore of this cursed picture can give us something that would debunk your preconceived notion of him desiring to become a woman. Knights are generally appointed an honorary title by their monarch for military capacity during the Middle Ages. Masculine traits.
Now, because it's 2021 and people are extra specially stupid in this day and age.
Jesus Christ, the honest to God audacity of this person. Dude, you're making a video explaining to us about how tomboy abs are part of a conspiracy to turn you gay. Get the fuck off your high horse.
I'm going to get another reply to ensure that you really get it. I'm going to bash you over the head. Remember I mentioned Conan and his sledgehammer? This video is me wielding Conan's sledgehammer, okay?
Oh yes please, enlighten us more with your coveted intellect, my good sir. Dude, you're talking about some dumb kink in the internet. It's not like you are ascending down from heaven in your white unicorn, in your shining knight's armor with your claymore sword ready to subsequently bring to the land order and justice away from the realm of chaos like some fairy tale. Fascism is what results from the intermingling of politics and LARPing, which is what you're doing right now. In fact, that's what fascists try to prop themselves up as. They believe themselves to be arbiters of order and justice in the absence of a functioning societal structure, when they are just destructive to the nation or civilization that they claim to care about.
So let's look at this one. Here, Nikki responds to the picture of the masculine woman with a degenerate anime meme of what appears to be a schoolgirl squirting milk from their genitals. Now Nikki imagines himself as a schoolgirl with a penis.
Boomer-friendly tip to academic agent number 2. Not every reaction image on Twitter is a literal replication of someone's imagination. Sure, they could be used to communicate what they are thinking, but let's be real, Niffy Fandino is obviously not imagining himself being the schoolgirl, but rather he uses it as a proxy to communicate an overly exaggerated way of appreciating the media in which the comment is posted. I bet that, when I post this picture of a dog having his eyes pop out to express shock, you'd be the first person to say that I am literally imagining myself as the dog, when that's obviously not the case. I am using the dog picture to convey my emotions. People have been using this method practically ever since the internet first existed.
Exploding at the sight of a strong woman. If you look at the written text, it is also written in a particularly girlish way. I'm so horny right now.
Yep, only girly girls could say that they are horny right now. No real self-respecting masculine stallions in the history of man would ever utter that they are horny. You know what, since you are associating horniness with girls, not women, girls, I am starting to believe that the FBI might need to look into your case right away.
Here's a Japanese-looking girl, posted as the point of view character from the male Twitter user licking the tomboy abs. This is the complete inversion of Laura Mulvey's male gaze. This is the female gaze internalized by young men.
Let me tell you guys a short little anecdote. I watched a recent commentary video from Doodle Tones, and it's a response to a Twitter thread from a user called Conrad Golden, also known as Bronze Swords. In the comment thread, he was rambling about how game speedruns are somehow manifestations of internalized archetypes, which leads to the acceptance of leftist ideologies like communism. I am not making this shit up. Go watch Doodle Tones' video for the full context. This video that I am commentating on represents the same levels of autism needed to make the conclusions Bronze Swords and academic agents made in their separate ramblings. They like to put their newfound psychological findings they got online into good use by applying it to literally everything under the sun in an attempt to wade around their pseudo-intellectual cock to impress people. Oh, you think this thing is cool and fun? Well fuck you. Allow me to make a 40-minute video essay rambling about how this thing you find cool and fun is actually a psychological manifestation resulting from what Carl Jung calls humans' collective unconsciousness that enables the imminent downfall of the Western man, replacing our glorious white-focused Christian morality with postmodern neo-Marxism and Satanism. They don't understand the concept of fun. They like to pretend everything is some sort of manifestation of their subconsciousness that is about to destroy society in the long run. I don't see this as intelligent. I just see this as schizophrenic ramblings from a madman who likes to use psychological academic speak in an attempt to sound smart, when in reality, you're just projecting.
Here's another variant. Here, the man imagines himself as a young anime girl with a fucking ponytail poking their tongue out trying to lick the toned stomach of a muscular woman.
Man, that's just you, my guy. You're the one projecting your imagination, not James.
This is why the terrorists hate us.
What?
This is why the terrorists hate us.
Ah yes, this is exactly why the terrorists hate the West. Radical Islamists don't hate us, because they are a bunch of absolutely insane Islamic fundamentalist extremists who want to see the world burn and bend to the whims of a worldwide lobbyist theocratic ideology. No, instead they hate the West, because some fuck on Twitter posted a meme depicting an anime girl sticking her tongue out. Yep, that's definitely it. Quick question for academic agent, why the fuck should I care about appeasing the terrorists? You know what? No, I don't want to appease these terrorists. If anything, I welcome their hatred with open arms. These are the people who murder innocent people in account of their religious beliefs and throw gay people on top of buildings. I don't think I want them to have any sort of say on how we in the West should run our lives, especially if we value things like freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and especially freedom of religion. You know, values that pretty much define the Western world in the first place.
Now, while I don't want to see a single comment defending this shit, and I will delete them if I see them,
Nothing says freedom of speech loving conservative like deleting YouTube comments that disagree with your opinion. Whatever happened to the free marketplace of ideas I kept hearing about?
I cannot blame the young men and the young women who are the victims of this. Yes, it is true that male and female traits are biologically rooted.
Yes, that's correct. Men have penises and women have vaginas. This is what is known as sex, things related to biology. The rest is societal-based, based, and it is known as gender.
But there is some slack there which culture picks up, and whatever slack is there, our culture is pushing to breaking point, inducing problems of internal identity on young and impressionable men and women who live dazed and confused by all of this, addicted to porn and this sort of gender-bending nonsense on a daily basis.
Here's my solution to your problem. You wanna hear it? It's called moderation. Whoa, really? Yes, believe it or not, moderation is the solution to crippling addiction, but that's only if you have self-control. It's the same reason why people moderately drink alcohol without being absolute drunkards, and you can moderately masturbate like one time every 2 days without being a total coomer who can't go a second without releasing gallons of semen onto his computer. However, you're talking about Zoomers, a generation that at the moment is mostly comprised of teenagers and young adults, so it's a different story when you consider the overall trend with this age group. Most of them are teenagers and young adults who are just experimenting in their personal sexual marketplace for lack of a better term, but once they become wiser adults sitting in their early 30s, they'll pretty much mature out of it, because many of them start taking more seriously their personal lives and newfound familial relationships. In fact, this isn't just Zoomers doing all of this. This isn't a new phenomenon that just popped out of the blue in the 21st century. This has always been the case for each generation. Young people experimented with sex and sexual stuff, and they inevitably became more mature and wise about it in their own terms.
I'm led to believe that the likes of Count Dankula and others have tried to normalize and defend all of this.
Hey, what? Count Dankula? You mean this Count Dankula? You mean this guy of all people is part of the grand scheme to normalize the destruction of gender norms?
This isn't something that should be defended. It's ultimately terminal for civilizational prospects. It is quite literally training men to think of themselves as women, to ape the behaviors of women.
Okay, buddy, let me see if I am understanding your philosophy here. Tomboys, women that, although possess biological and aesthetical characteristics of women, also possess some societal characteristics that can be attributed to men, be they playing sports or working out, and knowing this, if I were to have them as my type, I am actually conditioning myself to becoming a woman. Oh sure, I can definitely see how that works. Alright, I'm about to ask out my soon-to-be girlfriend. Better put on my skirt, cat ears and a pair of knee-high socks And
when the barbarian does invade...
What? The barbarian? What is this, the 10th century? What the fuck are you talking about? Who the fuck are these barbarians you speak of? I'm not sure if you know this, Mr. Academic Agent, if that's your real name, but we are not living in the 11th century anymore. We are not currently fighting against the Seljuks in Constantinople anymore. We live in the 21st century. There is no barbarian. Jesus Christ, this shit is so fucking LARPy. The amount of LARPing in this video should be its own chemical element in the periodic table. Seriously. No one in the 21st century should ever talk like this without being this much of a LARPer.
Can we be sure that these men will shake it all off and fight, or will they drop to their knees with their tongue hanging out?
What kind of world do you live in? Ah yes, you are an American soldier. You go to your assigned battlefield somewhere in the Middle East, where you are set to fight against a nebulous barbarian. You see the barbarian marching towards your comrades in lockstep, and you all take up arms and prepare to fight. But oh no, it seems like the barbarian knows your weakness. They blow up a giant outdoor inflatable movie screen, and it just shows a picture of a source filmmaker model of Farrah from Overwatch in a workout wardrobe showing her abs. All of your men promptly and simultaneously drop to their knees, all sticking their tongues directly at the inflatable movie screen waiting to lick the tomboy abs. Like, what the fuck am I supposed to make out of your stupid theory? Logically, no soldier is going to just mindlessly do that while they are in the middle of a fucking battlefield, and if say there was some soldier that is prone to do it, I wouldn't think they would be suitable to fight anyway.
This tomboy rubbish is just the tip of the a much deeper iceberg that infiltrates Zoomer culture at every level, especially in porn, but also in all of the other degenerate forms, you know, the forums, the anime, the 4chan, all of the gamer spaces, and so on and so forth. This sort of thing is just the everyday life.
Here's something I noticed about the video. This person fails to make a distinction between what goes on the internet versus real life, and how people actually have a life besides sending reaction images on Twitter. Most of the people from Gen Z that I know, myself included, are not constantly talking about Coomer stuff like what you're making it out to be, because most of the Coomer stuff comes from a loud minority that has a voice on the internet, especially on Twitter. You are using this minority of people on Twitter that you've nitpicked as an example of how the entire generation is turning into a bunch of degenerate zombies, when that's far from the case.
Another cope that somebody gave me is, oh, don't react to something on Twitter.
You know, usually when someone calls someone's argument a cope, it's usually because that person using that word is coping themselves. Coping with the fact that they are wrong.
Let me tell you something. Twitter is real life. It's more real, and it affects real life more than anybody expects. How can anybody have lived through the past 3 or 4 years and not think that Twitter is real life? Of course it is.
No, Twitter is not the same as real life. Twitter has a much more different intellectual and social atmosphere than real life, especially when comparing it to other websites. Besides, if you are using this as a reason to care, this only belongs to a niche subculture in the internet that only a few people willing to get into would see what is posted, and this thing that you are blowing out of proportion is no exception.
Now, it's hard to blame anyone, in particularly on an individual level, because the cultural messaging they've been getting since the 1990s has trended in this direction to greater or lesser extremes. Let me read some of the lyrics of a song that I grew up with, Girls and Boys by Blur.
No, you are not giving me a copyright strike, you are not giving me a copyright strike, you are not giving me a copyright strike, you are not giving me a copyright strike. Well shit, wouldn't you believe it, Blur is also in the tranny fanboy tomboy faggot feud penis porn conspiracy as well. Time to take my Seroquel.
Now, what is the traditional answer to all of this? Let's see what Julius Avila says in Revolt Against the Modern World.
Julius Avila. That name sounds familiar. Hold in. Alright, I found some very interesting things about Avila on Wikipedia. Let's have a read. Giulio Cesare Andrea Avila, born from the 19th of May 1898 to the 11th of June 1974, better known as Julius Avila, was an Italian philosopher, poet, and painter whose esoteric worldview featured anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and the occult. We're off to a wonderful start, aren't we? He has been described as a fascist intellectual, a radical traditionalist, anti-egalitarian, anti-liberal, anti-democratic, and anti-popular. According to the scholar Franco Ferraresi, Avila's thought can be considered one of the most radical and consistent anti-egalitarian, anti-liberal, anti-democratic, and anti-popular systems in the 20th century. Historian Aaron Gillette described Avila as one of the most influential fascist racists in Italian history. Avila admired SS head Reichsfuhrer Heinrich Himmler, whom he once met. Autobiographical remarks by Avila allude to his having worked for the Sicherheitsdienst, or SD, the intelligence agency of the SS and the Nazi Party. During his trial in 1951, Avila denied being a fascist and instead referred to himself as superfascista, translated to superfascist. Avila's dissent from standard biological concepts of race had roots in his aristocratic elitism, since Nazi Volkisch ideology inadequately separated aristocracy from commoners. According to European Studies professor Paul Verlagen, Avila developed the law of the regression of castes in Revolt Against the Modern World and other writings in racism from the 1930s and World War II period. In Avila's view, power and civilization have progressed from one to another of the four castes: sacred leaders, warrior nobility, bourgeoisie, economy, merchants, and slaves. Verlagen explains, for Avila, the core of racial superiority lay in the spiritual qualities of the higher castes, which expressed themselves in physical as well as in cultural features, but were not determined by them. The law of the regression of castes places racism at the core of Avila's philosophy, since he sees an increasing predominance of lower races, as directly expressed through modern mass democracies. In 1941, Avila's book Synthesis of the Doctrine of Race, Italian, Sintesi di Dottrina della Razza, was published by Hopley. It provides an overview of his ideas concerning race and eugenics, introducing the concept of spiritual racism, and esoteric traditionalist racism. Avila endorsed Otto Weininger's views in The Jews. Though Avila viewed Jews as corrosive and anti-traditional, he described Adolf Hitler's more fanatical anti-Semitism as a paranoid idea that damaged the reputation of the Third Reich. Avila's conception did not emphasize the Nazi racial conception of Jews as representatives of a biological race. In Avila's view, the Jews were the carriers of a worldview, a spirit that corresponded to the worst and most decadent features of modernity: democracy, egalitarianism, and materialism. Avila argued that the fabricated anti-Semitic text, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, whether or not a forgery, accurately reflect the conditions of modernity. He believed that the protocols contain the plan for an occult war, whose objective is the utter destruction, in the non-Jewish peoples, of all tradition, class, aristocracy, and hierarchy, and of all moral, religious, and spiritual values. Following the murder of his friend Cornelius Avila, the leader of the fascist Romanian Iron Guard, Avila expressed anticipation of Ottomagic, Israelite tyranny. However, Avila believed that Jews had this power only because of European decadence in modernity. He also believed that one could be Aryan, but have a Jewish soul, just as one could be Jewish, but have an Aryan soul. Ah yes, if I were to pick someone who would be an authority on why Tomboys are the death blow of civilization, as we know it, I would definitely seek some occult super-fascist who is both racist and anti-Semitic. Given that you are quoting from him, it leaves me to believe that you believe all of these things. Alright, after my incredibly long read concerning who Julius Avila is, I think I should skip this part of the video, because it's just someone else reading an excerpt from Julius Avila's book called Revolt Against the Modern World, and I don't want this video to be any longer than it is right now. But don't worry, Academic Agent will paraphrase what Julius Avila said.
Already, Avila rules out the prospect of the manly woman or the girly man as contradictory and inorganic. Self-actualization in the traditional concept is about realizing yourself as your own gender. Men must realize themselves as men, and women must realize themselves as women.
Quick question to both Julius Avila and Academic Agent. What if you're transgender? Although they are of the male sex, keyword, sex, trans women are the opposite gender, and they identify themselves as such. Oh wait, what am I saying? This is Academic Agent we're talking about. Of course you don't believe that trans women are valid. You're a fascist quoting a super-fascist. My mistake.
Now what does that mean exactly? Avila continues.
I've already considered the way of being that corresponds eminently to man.
Holy shit, the pure laziness. You didn't even bother changing the text.
Avila suggests that men and women won't ever truly find themselves, so to speak, unless they adopt either the path of absolute affirmation, that's being a warrior, a man of action, as a man, or a lover, that is giving herself over entirely to a man, as a woman.
Here you can see the problem with this warped idea concerning gender roles. This idea only stands ground if we are just going to indiscriminately accept one singular archetype out of 1,000, but the problem is that there isn't one single objective archetype that we have concerning gender roles, and this can be seen in many ancient civilizations. Tradition, for tradition's sake, is a losing battle. You're going to have to look into these gender roles in an objective manner to see which works and which doesn't. Or better yet, dump all of these gender roles altogether and let people be individuals, and let them plan out family matters in their own terms, and then we can talk about which works and which doesn't. That doesn't involve taking other people's basic liberties. Just a suggestion. We'll get back to that in a moment.
And the other path is the path of absolute dedication. That's being an aesthetic, essentially one who transcends and overcomes sensual pleasures as a man, or a mother, that is giving herself entirely to the child as a woman.
Literally everything that you've placed as an expectation upon women is something a tomboy is perfectly capable of doing. So what the hell? Does being a tomboy have any effects on whether or not you're fertile?
The hardest aspect for the liberal mind to understand in all of this is that those paths represent ultimate freedom in self-actualization for any of us.
Yeah, nothing says epic freedom like putting yourself in an incredibly rigid standard of what both being a man and woman should be. No exceptions are involved at all, and those who stray away from it will be put in a work camp. Wow, this is some spanking freedom you got going on over here. I wonder why we've changed.
And everything else, all of the other temptations in life, which modernity throws our way and sells to us as freedom, is a trap. Now, when I say the liberal mind, I don't just mean Democrat voters and communists or something like that. I mean me, you, all of us. Me, you, and everyone watching this constantly defaults to thinking in a liberal way.
Or, as I call it, having critical thinking skills.
Because these are the waters in which we swim. This is how we've all been socialized from the second that we were born. We default to thinking of Avila's traditional edict here as being overly austere and constrictive in its prescriptions.
Maybe it's because it is. Unless there is some intrinsic value to the society that you seek to establish, they wouldn't even bother finding the so-called liberal cope. The fact that they are finding exceptions to your grotesquely rigid world is a sign that it's not worth preserving, especially when there are very little reasons to have it in the first place. Fascists apparently don't have to bother with the rationality of their preconceived ideal hierarchical world. All they need to do is ask of you to shut up and let their individual liberties be sucked away in a vacuum. Gay academic agent, if you cared about the natural order, how about you leave us alone, as the people naturally decide for themselves in accordance to their convictions. I can't think of something more natural than having some entity or select set of ideological commandments control your life under the guise of preserving natural order.
Therefore, we immediately try to find exceptions or counters or way to justify having a more enlightened or modern view of the matter.
Apparently, this rigid idea of how gender dynamics should be can only truly work if we were to stop thinking. Oh no, don't think about how another alternative to my ideal world is possible. Just keep holding on to it to your life. Your life is dedicated to making it work. I need to say this, but this kind of logic right here is deeply authoritarian in so many ways. You're essentially asking your viewers to blindly accept the will of some supposed natural order at the expense of their own convictions, and asking those same viewers to terminate whatever thought that may come by, things that may contradict this ideal world just to make it come to fruition. Imagine having an ideal world so weak and frail that it's immediately undermined by someone freely thinking critically about the society he lives in. As it turns out, thinking critically about the society we live in and proposing something that is better than the one we currently have right now is one of the main things that drives society into a better and positive direction, and the fact that it's kicking your ass in almost every metric is a sign that you're doing something wrong.
Now, Jonathan Bowden once commented on this tendency to try to find the liberal cope. Let's just listen to him for a moment.
Before we do that, let's look up who Jonathan Bowden is. Alright, here it is. Jonathan David Anthony Bowden, born from 12th of April 1962 to the 29th of March 2012, was an English far-right writer and political activist. Initially a conservative, he later became involved in far-right organizations such as the British National Party. Bowden has been described as a cult internet figure in the alt-right, even after his death. The ideas that Bowden held to be true include that inequality is good for society, that liberalism is moral syphilis, and that white people are justified in asserting their cultural, ethnic, psychological and spiritual superiority. As if making a retarded video about how dangerous tomboy abs are to society wasn't bad enough, you gotta go off the deep end and refer back to literal neo-Nazis and fascists. Academic agent, pay attention to this, because this isn't helping your case any further, it just makes every sane person click off the video.
I think the point to make about Vanguardism is whenever anything happens...
Vanguardism. Holy shit, this is so fucking larpy. Skip, I am not interested in this.
Did you hear that?
No, I didn't hear that. That's why I skipped it.
Liberalism within ourselves is always the enemy.
Yeah, fuck liberalism. Make sure you plug your ears and hear no more than what your ultra-conservative moral framework permeated by the man wants you to hear.
Liberalism also feeds on indifference. Indifference to the future and indifference to the generations that are coming in the future.
You know, I consider myself to be left-wing adjacent, and I can confirm that I do care about the future. Climate change, the lack in education, worse working conditions, implicit systemic discrimination, and other things that will be detrimental to future generations lest we solve them. You know, issues that affect real-life people in the real world. What the fuck are you so worried about? Oh, some fuckwads on Twitter which only accounts for 1% of the adult male population is posting reaction images on Twitter showing anime girls licking the screen? Is this what you're so worried about?
And this is what I notice most when I scratch on these little issues of degeneracy in the culture now and again, like I'm doing in this video. There's always a contingent in the audience who'd rather I didn't look, who'd rather I didn't care.
Jesus, you're acting like something bad will happen if we thirst over tomboy abs. Alright buddy, explain to me what detrimental stuff will happen if some of us just thirst over tomboy abs, because God knows you haven't provided me with any reason to care.
Why do you care about this, academic agent, they'll say. Why do you care if some silly Zoomers want to lick the abs of masculine women? I care because I care about future generations. I care because I care about this current generation.
Wow, I do too. But the only difference is that I am focusing on real issues, not some stupid fucking culture war issue that affects nobody in the real world.
This is not a healthy place for our people to be in. And you should care.
Why? Why should I care? All you've done as an attempt to have us care about this stupid non-existent issue is provide me quotes from literal fascists circle jerking over the natural order, among other advertising buzzwords. What the fuck is going to happen should we let this continue? Oh, the barbarian is going to invade the Western world, if we don't stop it. What kind of preschool logic is this? That's like telling a child that the boogeyman is going to get them, if they don't start eating their vegetables.
And when you try to fob me off and get me not to care, whether you know it or not, you're working for the interests of the enemy. Because, you know, the enemy want this to happen.
Who the fuck is the enemy? This is why I think this is an anti-Semitic video. When you use vague terms like the enemy, all of the fascists and neo-Nazis that are subscribed to Academic Agent's YouTube page will hear Jews. This isn't really working, guys. By now many of us politically savvy people can see through your dog-whistling bullshit.
A people is more pliable, easier to manipulate, if you have a generation of confused, girlish men, and a generation of even more confused, mannish women.
Okay, we have a generation of girlish men, and masculine women. Okay buddy, now what? The men are girlish, and the women are manly. Where's the end game? Oh wait, let me guess, the enemy wants this to happen, because something manipulation. The enemy is manipulating the Zoomers through letting them freely choose how they want to express their gender identity. This is what I am getting at from the video. And making them confused. Nope, that's just you buddy. Apparently some fucknids licking the tomboy abs is enough to make your brain hurty.
Constantly locked in a battle against their true natures.
Let me just stress once again that this is the type of stuff that keeps these identitarian fascists whatever the fucks up at night. They are not so keen in talking about actual issues that will definitely have a negative impact on future generations: climate change, lack of education, the stifling of creativity and social mobility in a capitalist system. No, their main concern for future generations is that gender norms are not the same as it was back in the 1800s. What the hell is the point of having an ultra-conservative framework for society in terms of gender expression, if the Arctic Ocean is melting, if the literacy rate is terrible, and everyone is working at an Amazon fulfillment center 24 hours a day, while being paid only $6 an hour?
It is satanic.
Woo boy, as if the video wasn't crazy enough, we gotta throw in the paranoid Christian tropes, the satanic Illuminati New World Order True Fair Vigilant Christian YouTuber trends that permeated discourse from 2011 to 2016.
And when you cope and try to ward off and explain away this shit against the vanguard of the right,
LARP.
You're doing the bidding of the regime.
Thank you, Academic Agent. Now you made my case justified in calling this an anti-Semitic video. Both fascists and Nazis alike all love to claim that we are under the boot of a regime that is conspiring against Western values, and who else would it be aside from Jews?
You're acting as an apologist for their inversion of tradition.
Yep, let the justifications of calling this video anti-Semitic keep coming. Gotta love that you are emphasizing on the word there. A common trope for anti-Semites is the triple parenthesis, and what you are doing right now pretty much does the exact same job. The only thing missing is the echo effect in the audio, something that Maddie's Modern Life does in his videos.
Leaving aside the issue of biological gender for now, does this mean the government will also allow me to change my race to Aboriginal? Does that mean I can just claim that I'm a member of a certain tribe just because I say so?
I saw one of the best lines I'd seen for a while in my Telegram group earlier from Ananon. And this, thinking like this, is how you must crush libertine and libertarian pushback on all these moral sorts of questions.
Ah yes, what a very fine and wonderful sentiment. Nothing speaks of saving Western civilization than wanting to crush and trade away your own liberty. Experts agree.
He said, "We hate the left because they enforce an evil morality, not because they enforce morality."
Wow, such an inspiring and persuasive quote you got there. Nothing says nuanced political commentary than saying our side good and their side bad. Someone ought to have this engraved in public property. I like having my tax dollars go to such a nuanced take such as these. Wait, no it fucking isn't. What the fuck is this shit? We hate the left because they enforce an evil morality. This literally says nothing. I could literally just circle the quote and run through all the semantics about what he means by evil, and how there is a gray area, where no morality is necessarily being enforced.
Yes. 1,000 times yes and on. Correct. And morality must be enforced. Because, as you may see eventually from my speech at the recent event, if it's ever uploaded, culture is downstream from law.
No, morality not downstream from law. It's actually the other way around. Morality is subject to change over time, and we write laws on it to reflect that.
And this culture is downstream from a law which categorically cannot distinguish between men and women at a legal level. A law which actually punishes attempts to conform to or to enforce traditional views on genders such as Avila's.
That's right, to all of the femboys, tomboys, trans girls, LGBTQ folk, etc., in the glorious utopia that both Julius Avila and academic agent both possess. If you dare deviate from what gender dynamics their natural law fascist utopia possesses, then you are going to be punished. I need you all to understand that these people, academic agent and others, take freedom. They don't like freedom. They are totalitarian dipshits who would resort to government force if it's to have their subjective view of the world realized. They are honest to God a bigger threat to freedom than they like to portray themselves as.
It's not a private matter. It's not something that's just up to individuals and all that other shit that you're going to give me. It's my business, and it's yours if you care about your civilization.
Refer to my previous statements a couple of interjections back.
Now, just before I made this video, some little dipshit on Twitter wrote this. They said, "What's wrong with womanly abs? This is how conservatives lose the younger generation. You are the Puritan of our time."
Thank you, meme account number 25,216, otherwise known as based account number 25,216, because you have won a certified gift card to the based department.
Well, let me just tell you this. If I was in charge, the regime would force you to stop being such a...
Whoa, Jesus Christ, my dude. I called it, didn't I? This guy couldn't keep his dick in his pants. He didn't have to hide that he is an absolutely rotten totalitarian Nazi who wants to kill 6 million Jews. He's letting it out for everyone in the world to see. Not even Maddie's Modern Life and Mark Collett is this out in the open with their totalitarian ambitions.
I am aware that Susan is listening.
Holy shit, this makes it even worse. I'm imagining that, if you completed your sentences, you would have called this guy a Jew or something.
But if you are a young man watching this, who wants your girlfriend to be a man and who wants to act like a teenage girl in the safety of her bulging biceps, you don't belong on the right. The correct place for you is to be marching with Antifa against the natural order of things.
Good, because I'd imagine Antifa would be delighted to have a word with you about your video. Just a friendly little chit-chat about your rhetoric.
Get out of here.
Now available at the Academic Agency. Sharpen your analytical mind and your argumentation skills with Foundations of Logic.
No, and this is where I am ending the video. Overall, aside from the absurdly ridiculous subject matter of the video, Tomboy abs being the death blow of Western civilization or whatever, this video and its rhetoric is totalitarian and anti-freedom to its very core. In fact, this pretty much goes hand in hand with fascist and Nazi rhetoric, doesn't it? It all makes sense if you put everything from the perspective of someone who is familiar with it. Fascism is not too keen in tolerating deviation from the culture that it seeks to enforce upon its subjects, and expects everyone to conform to it through force. Case in point, one of the things that it seeks to enforce is its own subjective gender norms. Therefore, anything that deviates from it, specifically people who possess gender non-conforming aesthetics such as the likes of tomboys and femboys, are to be either ousted from society altogether or basically be stamped out through whichever means necessary, and I'm pretty sure everyone can fill in the blanks in what would happen next. This goes back to the Leviathan that I talked about in my previous commentaries. Authoritarian and totalitarian communist and fascist regimes both place heavy emphasis in using force to mold society into how they see fit, while communists, specifically from Stalinist Russia and Maoist China, want to enforce a specific type of economic framework, and will use whatever unethical means to do it, ranging from starving the kulaks to death in Ukraine or killing political dissidents. Fascist regimes from the likes of Hitler's Germany and Mussolini's Italy want to enforce a specific type of ultra-conservative moral system, or in Hitler's case a specific type of eugenics program. Despite supposedly being opposite extremes in the political spectrum, one thing that binds them all together is that they believe that human beings are either bloodthirsty savages or just stupid lemmings, and the only way to civilize these beasts is to have some sort of entity guide their lives in an almost godlike way. Nothing outside the state, nothing against the state, so said the fascist totalitarian. Another thing that they have in common is that they always end in disaster. This is what happens when you let a totalitarian gamble with your rights. If you see anyone use something, whether it be through cringy posts on a Twitter post about tomboy abs, or drag queen story time hour, or anything else that they deem degenerate, as an excuse to justify a need for a regime that supposedly enforces morality, just say no. If you care about liberty and free expression, do not engage with these ideas, otherwise all of it will backfire on you. Academic agent, just to let you know that you are essentially the other side of the coin, and the other side contains a bunch of caricatures of SJWs. The only difference is that you're not just a mere caricature, you're actually real. That's honestly pretty sad. Anyway, aside from all of that, thank you guys so much for making me reach 1,000 subscribers. Although all of us had our ups and downs, I can't stress enough about how grateful I am to have you guys as a community at the end of the day. Hell, many of you from my understanding have been sticking with me and my content since 2016, and that blesses me from the bottom of my heart. I know I am taking a hiatus, but I need to get this video out as quickly as I could, because I can't just leave this project on the sideline when it was halfway done. Anyway, this is Ottomagic Critic, and have a great rest of your day. See you next time.